right, so let's start. Thank you all so much for coming today to this course, which is an introduction to mindfulness meditation. And it would be interesting to find out how many of you have actually done a course in mindfulness meditation before. Maybe just raise your hands. Susie, Matthew? Okay. And what about just meditation in general? How many of you practice that or have done a course in that?
I think mine was just a general meditation, not mindfulness meditation. Yeah, when I took it.
Perfect. So let me just close this down on this side. Okay. So it would be useful then maybe to start with an overview of what mindfulness is. And then in today's session, we'll be covering off the foundation. So what it is, the science behind it, how it works, and then we'll be jumping into some practice so you can experience it for yourself. And we'll review it all together. And at the end, we'll take a Q&A. Sounds good?
Okay.
And we're going to be focusing today on the body. And as we progress each week, we'll be focusing on much more subtle awarenesses. So going from your body to your breath, and then finally to your mind. So it's quite a lot to cover off in 4 weeks. But let's jump straight into it. So mindfulness, what is mindfulness? It's an experience of the mind without judgment or without interpretation. And when I say interpretation, that means the normal narrative that goes with anything that we perceive or that we experience. I like this, this is good, what about that? The hook that will lead you on to further thought. So it's the ability to be directly present in the moment. Yeah. And it's also a way for your mind, through this awareness and this attention, to be able to consciously reprogram and restructure itself. I love this saying by Siegel, who says, the mind uses the brain to create itself. So this is a very powerful tool for us to work with the plasticity of our mind and to become aware of the programs that we're running, and for us to consciously be able to make choices around that. But first of all, we just start with the awareness and the attention. So those two are very important concepts. They're probably the first thing to grasp when you learn about mindfulness, and they're different. So would anybody fancy volunteering a guess or as to what the difference is between attention and awareness? It's something that tends to get lumped in as one thing, but they're actually very, very different. So your attention is what your mind attends to. It's what it focuses on, but your awareness is peripheral. It's like a motion detector, and it sweeps the environment around you. So imagine you're a hunter, you're prehistoric, and you're on the plains of Africa. And you've got your eyes focused on your prey, which is a woolly mammoth. Okay, and you're fully focused. You're there, you are one with the animal. You are sensing it as it moves, and you're stalking it as it moves. Okay, fully focused attention on the woolly mammoth. But somewhere from the back of your senses, you can feel, I feel like I'm telling a story to my children. Sorry, I've gone into storytelling mode. And then you feel a lion. Somehow you can just sense it in the background. And you freeze. That's awareness. That's the peripheral environmental awareness. And your body automatically goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode. So let's have a look at how the mind works just in that instance. Okay. So the majority of what we do during the day, during our waking moments, is we operate from the back of our brain. This is a storehouse of memories. This is where we store all of our subconscious and our unconscious programs. so that if we need to run or if we need to pick up a spear, we don't need to think, okay, leg up, muscles lift, run down. This allows us to just behave in a programmed pattern to respond to all of the various things around us. Everything from having a sip of tea and, oh, it's too hot, to being able to write an email. So all of this functions from the back of your brain. And as we grow and as we develop, this is what's growing, especially from 0 to 4. We fill this up with all the programs that we need to survive, and it's our interpretation of the world around us. Yeah. At the front of our brain, we have the prefrontal cortex. This is where we handle all of our conscious thoughts. We can only handle one thing at a time, only one thing fully consciously at the time. And so for us to be aware of anything else in the back of our brain is causing us to constantly toggle between front brain and back brain. And if you think of the time it takes me to snap my fingers, we've got 40 frames of consciousness right there. So it's like a reel, a film reel. You're not even aware of all the separate moments. And our conscious brain can only take 8 to 10 different things at one time, okay, consciously, because it gets exhausted, it gets tired, which is why we rely on this. So if by the time we've sensed that lion and we focus our attention on it and we go lion or brown object over there that's kind of oblongy shape, you know, goes to the back and it goes through this whole catalogue. What could it be? Could it be a hippo? No. Could it be an elephant? No. By the time it goes lion, threat, run, we could be lunch. So what happens is our brain has a way of short-circuiting that. Our amygdala, which is at the center of our brain, hijacks our brain response. It's got a direct circuit straight to the back of our brain. And before we know it, our adrenals kick in. So adrenaline floods our body, blood moves away from our digestive system, our heart starts beating, and we're primed to run. At the same time, our cortisol levels rise, and that stops our brain, our rational brain, from thinking. And before we're even consciously aware of the lion, we're already in fight, flight, or freeze response. So we're not on the plains of Africa anymore. Sometimes, though, our body doesn't know it because our body is still hardwired to threat. And we see it all the time around us. Our body perceives threat in uncertainty. Our body perceives threat through status. We're still all primal monkeys at the end of the day. It perceives threats through injustice. Have a think now, maybe just take a moment or so to just think about something that you perceive as a threat that's impacting you in the last month or so. And just put your mind there. And just notice what happens to your body. Because the interesting thing is just thinking of the story about the threat puts you into a physical and emotional response. You're not actually perceiving the threat in the moment. It's the story of the threat. And every day, all the time, we're experiencing narratives in our head that put us into fight or flight response. And what we're finding today is people are constantly running on adrenaline. Their bodies are exhausted. Today's constant emails, always on. Work has now not 9 to 5. It's constantly some new thing to firefight, and it's exhausting. And mindfulness is really, really powerful for this. They've found that even just 10 minutes meditation a day drops your cortisol levels by 50%. And it's got this whole host of other benefits as well. It allows you to heighten your clarity, relax your body. It's able to shrink your amygdala. And it's also able to grow your hippocampus, which is the part of your brain responsible for learning. It's got all these amazing things. that help you within your life be calmer, more present, happier, and more focused. And I can certainly testify to that because it's been such an important feature of my life as well too. So, as I was saying, our body and our brain is wired to threat, and a lot of that is around the stories of it. And if we look at what mindfulness is, it's the ability to experience moment to moment without that narrative, without that interpretation, so that we can just be present. Because if we look at what our mind attends to much of the time, it's focusing on either the future or the past. And these are just narratives. When you think about the past, think about brushing your teeth this morning. Or maybe you haven't brushed your teeth this morning. Think about brushing your teeth yesterday morning. Yeah, we've got some people in Australia here and America as well, but for most of us in Singapore, we would have brushed our teeth this morning. So what you're actually experiencing is a reproduction in your mind of you brushing your teeth. It's not an experience, right? And it's not faithful and true. It's subjective, yeah? So when you think about the past, it's an interpretation of the past. It's a story. And the future hasn't happened yet. It's an illusion. It's a narrative as well. And we often fill our mind with, what ifs and what do I need to do? I'm constantly thinking about the future, and that's a narrative too. So with mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, we train our mind. We train our mind to step out from the future and to step away from the past and to focus our mind in the here and now and bring our attention into the present moment so that we can experience it directly without the narrative. And when we're able to do that, when we're able to switch off that narrative circuit in our head, the Buddhists call it calm abiding, but it's essentially deep, deep peace. And it's the foundation for many Asian philosophies here. Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, it's all about being mindful and reaching that calm abiding, peaceful state by focusing on the present. And the way that they do that is they use their awareness, that watchfulness, to call their attention to where their mind wanders. So their mind is focused on the present, it's got single pointed focus, and they're looking to achieve complete clarity within that, and to notice when their mind wanders, either to the future or to the past, or with judgment or with interpretation, and it just calls them back to center so that they can focus on a single pointed concentration on that one object. And it's like building a peaceful muscle. It's building a stillness muscle within your brain and your body, and an awareness for when your mind drifts and the ability to call it back to center. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, great. So when we bring it back to center, we're doing so without attachment. We're doing so without the narrative, yeah? And we're just experiencing the moment in the moment. And the way that the mind works is the mind doesn't like the stick. The mind doesn't like to be shouted at. So I don't know if any of you have experienced meditation and you've gone, oh yeah, but my mind wanders, and then I just get really annoyed and it became tedious, and then I just give up on it because it sucks. And that's how our mind responds. It just doesn't like the stick. So the way that I've been taught is to use the power of reward. Your mind likes being rewarded. And so meditation doesn't become about just that single-minded focus. What we're trying to engage here is that motion sensor. We're trying to train our awareness to pick up whenever our mind wanders and to go, wow, I've just noticed that my mind has wandered. How cool am I? Pat on the back, job well done. I'm training up my awareness. And you move back to center, and you do so with a sense of joyfulness. You rejoice in it. And you could do that through some sort of a trigger that you like. I create a little shiver up my back as a reward, but it could be a word in your mind. It could be something that you just do to anchor in and reinforce the positive benefits of noticing when your mind wanders. So when we do our practice today, what we're going to be focusing on is watching our mind, using awareness, spotting when it wanders off, going, well done me, pat on the back, and call it back to center. We're watching the watchfulness. We're watching our attention so that we can be in the present. Sounds good? Okay. So before we start, a couple of things to cover off. Posture is very, very important. So get into a position where your spine can be absolutely straight and your head is directly over your spine. I don't know how this works, but they find that if you tuck your tongue just here under, just behind your teeth, at the tip of your, at the roof of your mouth, that also has an effect in the circuitry of the brain. Yeah? And you can either keep your eyes shut or you can just focus just on the area in front of you. And you can do meditation in a number of different ways. You can do it lying down, you can do it sitting on the floor or sitting up, or you can do it standing or walking. And it's often interesting and useful to mix and match these techniques depending on the state of your brain. So if you're very dull and sleepy, do a walking meditation. If you're hyper alert and you've got monkey brain that's going all over the place, then lie down because it will relax you. So do whatever feels right in the moment. Okay. And we often use the body and the breath in meditation because we always have it with us. The body is coarser, you're able to experience it much, much more. But the more refined you get with meditation, the more nuanced that focus can be, the more subtle. So you can start to focus your attention on the breath at the tip of your nose. But for today, I would suggest we just focus on our abdomen, focus on our stomach, and you could put your hands over it and just focus on the breath as it comes in and out. And you'll notice as you breathe in deeply, your abdomen will expand. And as you breathe out, it will contract. And what we're doing is we're just calling attention to our attention and giving ourselves a rejoice high five moment when we notice our mind wandering. So let's try 10 minutes of meditation. Does that sound okay? Does that sound too much for you guys, or are you up for it? Okay. All right. So I'd like you to shut your eyes. I'm going to give you a moment or two to sort of get you into the space. And we're going to start to call our attention in from the outside world into our bodies. So just notice the weight of your body on your sit bones. I'm going to ask you to sit up straight, spine straight, tongue tucked under, and relax your shoulders. You might want to wiggle around until you've got your posture just right. And taking a couple of deep breaths. Okay. And we're going to use our 5 senses to slowly draw our attention away from the outside world, inwards. So I want you to notice, first of all, what can you hear? What can you smell? can you taste? And then we're going to focus on touch. I want you to call your attention to the parts of your body that are touching the chair that you're sitting on. And if your mind wanders, gently catch it and reward yourself. Bring it back to center. What are the sensations of your body against the chair? Can you feel the weightiness? What about temperature? I want you to call attention to your arms. Feel of any fabric against your arm or contact against the chair. Where else is your body contacting itself? Feel the connection. Hands on knees, arms against waist. Call your attention to these areas of tactile sensation. Lips on lips, eyelid to eyelid. And now focus on the breath in your abdomen. Feel how it feels on the in-breath and the out-breath. Notice any sensations in the body. Is there any difference between the in-breath and the out-breath? Use all of these as hooks to keep your mind engaged and from wandering. I'm going to give you 5 minutes now to watch your own mind, to find interest within your breath, and to watch your mind and to call it back to center. if you notice your mind wandering, give it a pat on the back. Bring yourself back to center on your breath. Okay, so gently bring your attention back to the rest of your body and into the room. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So if you're okay at unmicing yourself, I'd love to hear how you found that and what you noticed about the state of your mind and about its wanderings. Should we go around the room? Around the Zoom room. Maybe if we start with Kayleen, who's on my top.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And what I noticed is after a while, when I kept saying, thank you, please park that. Thank you, please park that. I actually had the mind saying, okay, and responding to me, which was quite funny. But it also, what was interesting is what it kept drifting to, I now know is something that I need to focus on out of session as well, because it kept taking me back to some work that I need to focus on. But yeah, every time I said thank you, it kind of parked it. But yeah, halfway through it started saying, okay. And I'm like, all right, I'm having a conversation with my head. So no, it was really good. Felt lovely.
Thank you, Kayleen. Darren?
Hi. Yeah, it was great. I tended to notice a lot hourly. So it seems to be a lot of air traffic today, which is I thought was interesting. And then I brought myself back. And then there was kids screaming, which I thought was annoying. And then I brought myself back.
Was that in your head or outside your head?
No, it was all outside. When I brought myself back, my reward was to imagine a piece of paper going into like a basketball waste paper bin. That was my reward. That was strange. And then I think I just towards the end was probably starting to doze off. But we came back, so that was good. There you go.
Thanks, Darren. And when you had all of that narrative, was it focused on future or past?
I didn't have any of that today. unusually. I was just pretty much aware of what was going on around me.
Narrating the present. Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, bit similar, I guess. A lot of distracting noises in the beginning around me, water running, someone using a toilet, but I managed somewhere midway through to completely switch off by, I don't know how to describe this, but probably trying to stare at nothing, which is basically the inside of my eyelids. And I managed at some point to completely disconnect for, I think it must have been a good minute or so. And then I realized that I was really detached, and sort of that startled me a bit, and then that brought me back sooner than I expected. But yeah, that 1 minute, I guess, was literally really worth it. Yeah, good stuff. Didn't think about much, only in the very beginning about things that I need to do today, and then try to reward myself. But I know I will reach that moment where I detach myself from it. So it will come. Just trust yourself, and yeah, and then somehow after all the noises and planes and stuff that also flew over my head, it kicked in. That was good.
That's actually a really good point about all of the ambient sound and noise. With meditation, you just accept that as well, and you don't resist it. You just go, okay, sound is happening, and switch off. So when you had that that minute of detachment, what did that feel like?
Well, kind of like a bit of feeling really, really relaxed, like finally being able to let go of this notion of not focusing on anything is quite. It's like literally my mind switched off, and it feels a bit emotional in a way that I'm like, wait, all sorts of things start to bubble up, which I can't describe, but I guess these are emotions. But and I don't literally feel like I have to do anything with it, which is quite nice. But I still don't know what I was feeling. There's some things bubbling up, and then that bit too quickly, but it went away again. So maybe in another session it will last a bit longer. But yeah, that's basically what I think happened.
Thank you, Matthew. So at that point when you're in that state of complete absorption, in that single pointed concentration, which was for you behind your eyelids, instead of the mind switching off, it can feel like that, but it's actually the mind is fully switched on. And in that point, the Buddhists call it shamatha, single pointed concentration, complete absorption. They say that until you have shamatha, you don't have a mind. The mind has you. So the rest of the time, we're completely reacting. We're not being mindful or in the present. But when you are in that moment, you have that mind, and you start to call attention to everything that's happening within your body and in your mind process. Thank you. James?
Yeah, it was quite good in the sense I was doing that on the balcony, which there's a lot of interesting noises going on in the balcony. There's a lot of the chair is slightly not entirely comfortable, so so that meant that there was a lot of things to kind of scan and listen to, which was good. The learning I'll take for next time is to bring some headphones, because when you're doing the guided meditation, it was quite quiet. So my moments of distraction were in trying to listen to what you were kind of saying, and then I was just like, right, okay, I'm gonna just I think I kind of get what she wants us to do, and then I would just sort of pull myself back and go back to kind of scanning and noticing those times. I don't think I managed to fix a specific reward. I think that you mentioned a tingle down your spine. Somebody else mentioned a paper airplane, I think. But I did do a good sort of well done, James, as I noticed myself drifting off and then sort of brought it back. So quite a positive start to the day, I think.
How did your mind respond to the well done, James, in bringing it back?
Oh, I love a bit of a recognition. So it worked well. Yeah. Then I would tend to sometimes then I tend to sort of wander off. I think in order to get more well done Jameses and more. No, it was good. It was good.
Great awareness, and also at the beginning with all of the disruptions, it's great that you're actually consciously using your mind to be aware of things that your mind can attend to as focus. So, yeah.
Good stuff.
Fancy, what about you?
I think there's just a lot of mental chatter on my end, and it's reflective when I'm in that silent state. All that mental chatter was just drawing me in multiple directions, and it's almost as if my mind was also trying to get out of it, get out of the silence. And I recall you saying that your mind doesn't like to be in that stillness, so I had to just like note that it's trying to get out of the state of, you know, calmness. And my reward to myself was the word beach, because like I've been using that word, thinking of the word beach, and that was a reward in itself. So yeah, definitely a lot of mental chatter and very uncomfortable doing it. Maybe it's just the state that I woke up in today, and yeah, just the mind is all over the place. But I think coming out of it, recognizing that it is everywhere, it was almost like a very nice summary to come to, like, to kind of recognize and be okay with that. There's a lot of mental chatter.
I acknowledge you for sitting within that discomfort, Fancy, and to powering through and being aware. I'm curious, was that chatter forward facing or was it past facing?
A bit of mostly future, mostly like what I need to get done today. I want to do other stuff. Like I want to be doing things. I don't want to be, you know, sitting here right now. Like, so my mind is just jumping all over the place, trying to, like the monkey in the brain, trying to pull me to do other things. Yeah.
Monkey mind.
Yeah.
So monkey mind is something that we're very familiar with working with in meditation, and we can soothe the monkey. And the real thing is to just acknowledge it's there. Don't deny it, don't repress it, don't indulge it, and then just, okay, monkey, I'm seeing you, and then come back to center. But really what we're trying to do is just acknowledge awareness that our mind is being distracted, and then keep on moving back to our point of concentration. Yeah, and that's something that if you can do it for even one breath, that's meditation. You know, it doesn't have to be a full 10 minutes. It's just that small pause, that small gap of peacefulness and stillness that we can then slowly start to widen as we practice more. Thank you. Susie, how about you?
Yeah, no, it was good. So a couple of things. Yeah, I definitely experienced a slight monkey mind going to the long list of things I have to do. But it was funny because I kind of take the ambient noises because I'm hearing the cars and planes and birds and everything. And because my mind is always so active, I kind of use those as a way to kind of be like, this is what's happening right now. And that was actually quite meditative for me, to have that to focus on. But it would be really gradual because I'd be like, you know, this is really nice. And I'm feeling quite light. I would feel my feet and I felt like they were getting quite light on the floor. But then I'd kind of catch myself, and before I even knew it, I was like going down the road of, oh, I have to call this person today or something. And so I'd have to, it was like very gradual process of being like very peaceful and then moving right into the monkey thoughts. So, so I was trying to just pull those back and kind of park them. And my way of doing that is to say, okay, they're like, I have 3 things I know up to today. That's number 4. Just remember the number 4 and then kind of come back. That's always the way that I kind of, so I don't forget things. Cause I think my monkey mind natural state is that, oh, I'm going to forget something. I have all these things to do. I'm going to forget something. But if I put a number against it, I always remember what it is. So, so yeah, I think it's kind of how to kind of catch that process of going into the day-to-day or the future or the past before it kind of, you realize you're fully engaged in thinking about it. Cause I felt like I was in a good state and I kind of gradually drifted and I was in this kind of back and forth the whole time, kind of trying to pull it back. But I mean, I felt like I was gentle on myself and I kind of just said, yeah, like park it. So, but yeah, it was good because I could feel myself getting lighter kind of every time as I kind of pulled myself back in.
Where did you feel that lightness in your body?
Mostly in my body, right? It's like, because I was trying to be very aware of, you know, sitting in the chair, my feet on the floor, you know, just a very comfortable position. And, you know, I was aware of that grounding on the floor, but I felt like I was getting, it just felt a bit lighter, especially in my feet, you know, the longer that I sat with all of it. So.
Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome.
And finally, Shay.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry. Maybe I'm super relaxed from that. It's the end of the day for me. The first half of it was really, it was a lot easier than the second half of it. I think my mind really liked the break to start, but then my monkey mind started popping in at the end. And when I would catch it and bring myself back, I found myself asking questions about the process, like, well, it's okay for me to be in this moment and be thinking about what I'm doing in this moment, right? And then that was a question about it. So I said, okay, park that. But I had fun catching myself. I maybe didn't reward myself, but it kind of felt like a reward when I'd catch myself off. I'd say, busted, in my head, and it was playful and fun. So I enjoyed it. I really liked just coming back to being here right now, and even the little bit of train of thought that was kind of rolling in the background was about sort of what you told us before about how I'm practicing, I'm building this muscle. It's like I'm exercising for being right here in this moment and turning the rest of that off. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Shay. So what I'm hearing from all of you guys is the awareness when your mind starts to drift off. You've got that motion sensor that's starting to kick in, and that awareness. And we're hearing a lot about monkey mind as well, which is the excitation of your mind. And can I just ask, how many of you were able, when you talk about that chatter, you know, to actually notice the narrative, to notice it as oral narrative within your mind? So in the Hindu philosophy, they call it vritti. And I'm sure most of you have heard about yoga. It's very, very mainstream. And the purpose of yoga, the actual meaning of yoga is meditation. And it's anchoring into your body to switch off that vritti, that constant narrative, that churn in your mind. And we do that by anchoring into our body. So meditation is actually around us so much all the time. We don't even realize it. You know, if you're reading a good book and your attention is completely absorbed in that, if you're painting or you're doing anything, you have that feeling of complete absorption. There's that word ecstasy, ecstasis, which actually means detachment from your body, detachment from that constant circuit of narrative in your own brain, and that feeling that goes with it. So, so I acknowledge you all for picking up on all of that narrative. It was interesting watching you all as well as you meditate, because you can also see posturally where the person is at and their state of mind when they meditate. So there's two different ways that your mind can be. Well, three. One is dead on in the middle, single pointed concentration within that space. The other one is excitation, which is monkey mind. That's where it started the narrative, and the narrative has got a hook, and then you start leading into another thing, and you're having this conversation that manifests on and on. You know, so what will I have for lunch? Oh, what do I have in the fridge? What can I do with this? And then, you know, oh, and then tomorrow, what am I doing tomorrow? And before you know it, your mind is somewhere else. So you can generally tend to notice monkey mind, because you can trace back step by step where you wake up, that moment you wake up in that present consciousness, step by step back to where you started. That's monkey mind. It's a stream of narrative consciousness that moves you away from where you are now. And the other state of mind is dullness, that sleepiness, you know, when you wake up and you know your brain isn't focused. And that's probably the most tricky thing that you have to be aware of as a meditation practitioner, because with dullness, before you know it, you're shanghaied. Have you ever heard that expression, shanghaied? Yeah, it's an old, I think it's from an old movie where there you are, you're at home, comfortable, you know, watching TV, and the next minute, you wake up and you're trussed in the back of a van somewhere. You don't know what's happened to your body. It's just been hijacked and you're somewhere else completely. You've been shanghaied. So when you're dull, the next minute, if you're able to call awareness to it, you're aware and awake in the middle of a daydream, somewhere off entirely. You have no idea how you got back to that state. So as we start to practice our meditation, we're constantly going to be keeping in the center, noticing when our mind is excited and calling it back, and noticing when it's dull. And you can see that in your posture. So for example, if you're relaxed, your mind slumps, your head slumps forward. And when you start to notice that, just bring your posture back into center. Similarly, when you're excited and your brain is off in monkey mind land, your head will go back. And you can start to see it. You know, sometimes the lips move. So postural changes really, really help as well. So I'm aware of the time now. We've got about another 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I have one.
Yeah, easy.
So like, I'm not being very articulate. So in terms of the optimal state of where we want to be, kind of pulling it back, this kind of balance between being really dull and unfocused and being all over the place and being in that center. Like I was telling you when I was thinking about it, the way to pull me back in was to kind of focus on the ambient environment around me. I mean, is that, because I think kind of just thinking, I have to have some kind of something to think about that's not like random crazy thoughts that lead me down a rabbit hole. So, I mean, is that kind of, I guess my question is it kind of to kind of draw you back into that space? Is it kind of whatever works for you? If it's like focusing on inwards, or if it's focusing outwards, whatever gets you there? I mean, what's the theory behind it? Or maybe I totally missed something.
That's a really, really great question. So it's whatever you intentionally put your focus on. So that could be intentionally listening to everything around you, the ambient stuff. It's whatever you can put your attention on that is interesting enough that your mind will engage with. And the stronger that you get with meditation, the more practice you do, the finer it can be. Yeah, so for now, do what works. I mean, there's, in Hindu philosophy, they've got so many different ways that you can achieve that sense of peacefulness using different mediums. So one is listening to music. You want to meditate, go and listen to some beautiful music and just be aware of your train of thought. and let it switch off and focus into the music.
Yeah.
know? Focus into your body, focus into your breath, focus into painting, whatever works for you.
Mm.
You know, meditation I find is highly personal, and you can play with it. But the thing is, the mind needs to be interested, at least when you start.
Yeah.
You know, and you need to treat it kindly and compassionately, and just whatever you choose to put your focus on, be gentle when you bring it back. But what you don't want to do is start going, oh, listen to that bird, and then you're listening to that bird, and then go, what am I having for lunch? You know, just you kind of want to keep it on its object.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. So I'm going to set you some homework to do, and it's meditation. Because for meditation to have any real impact and real effect in your life, it's something that you need to do every day. And meditation can work around you, and it can work around your life. If it's 10 deep breaths before you get out of bed in the morning, take it. It's better than nothing. But what I'd like you to try and do this week is put in a minimum of 10 minutes every day, ideally 20. Do it at a time that works for you. Make it pragmatic. 10 minutes at lunchtime, 10 minutes first thing in the morning. Work it around your life. But do it in a space where you can switch off. And the purpose of the intention is to start training your awareness, that motion sensor, to notice when your mind starts wandering, and just to call it back to center. And keep a journal. Just notice, start to notice what happens every day. So what happens with your awareness? What does it pick up on? What happens to your mind when you bring it back to center? What comes up for you? Notice also your posture and what impacts your posture has. You know. And next week we'll start to work on training the mind in between dullness and excitation. But for now, just use it as a way to gauge the state of your mind. Am I dull? Am I monkey mind? So that's your homework, just 10 to 20 minutes and journaling. Yeah, just put up your hands if you can commit to that. Okay. Right. So I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. And we have 1 or 2 minutes. I'd like to use that to just have a 1-minute meditation. And we're going to set your day up. Shay in America, it's going to be set your evening up. And Kayleen in Australia, it's going to be to set your afternoon up. And we just want to take a couple of deep breaths, and we want to set your intention for the day and set your intention for your mindfulness practice for this week. And when you're ready, just come back into the room. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
Okay.
Or Wednesday in America.
Well,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thanks, George.
Cheers.
Great evening.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.